Hey guys, it's Michael from Fire and Brilliance, and today's topic will be very, very interesting. Now, if you've been following this channel, obviously you know that we run a jewelry business, and on top of that, we provide as much information as possible with everything that has to do with jewelry. Today's episode is going to be dedicated to the diamond industry, the natural diamond industry to be specific. Where is the state of the diamond industry in today's world, in today's economic environment, and where I believe it's going to head towards in the future, the near and long term, and I'm going to get right into it for you. All right, so again, we are going over the state of the natural diamond industry in 2020. Where is it and where will it be? So before I start, I want to make sure that I go over exactly what I'll be talking about in 5 different breakdowns. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about the lab gemstones versus the natural diamonds and how it's affecting the industry. That's the first point. The second point will be about the current pandemic situation with the global world as well as the global recession that we're currently in and how that is affecting the diamond industry. I'll also provide how that is affecting the overall global supply and demand and how that is directly affecting the natural diamond industry. And I'll go over my personal opinion in terms of the future outlook, near and short term, as well as the long-term outlook and how I view the natural diamond industry in the future. And the last but not least, who does this help and who does it hurt? So those are the 5 points that I'll be going over. All right, so first, let's go over the lab versus the natural diamonds. And when I'm referring to lab, I'm specifically referring to lab-grown diamonds as well as moissanite versus the natural diamond industry. And the reason why I say that is because moissanite and lab grown are specifically chosen many times as an alternative to its natural alternative, which is the natural diamond. Now, the thing about the lab as well as the lab grown moissanite and diamonds, it's been around for actually a very long time, for quite a few decades. However, the acceptance of the lab grown and moissanite gemstones has not really been accepted until maybe the last 10 years or so, more or less 10 years or so. It's been very widely accepted, and that has definitely put a huge impact, more so a negative impact against the natural diamond industry, because now there's competition, direct competition with a different product, in other words, specifically against the natural diamonds. In other words, about 20 years ago, even 30 years ago, if you're to go into a jewelry store to purchase an engagement ring, chances are you're going to purchase a ring with a natural diamond. Even about 20 years ago, and even about 15 years ago. However, in the last 10 years or so, the last decade, it's been accepted and is very popular these days to purchase a lab-grown diamond as well as a moissanite compared to that of a natural diamond. So therefore, the acceptance of the lab-grown space has become widely popular all over the world and globally. As a matter of fact, if you are in the jewelry business, then you may already know this. In the US, the majority of the US jewelry manufacturers for the longest time did not actually supply any lab-grown gemstones. Many of them did not. Some of them did. So if you were in the lab-grown space, it was very difficult to find very specific lab-grown types of gemstones, especially moissanite and lab-grown diamonds. However, in the last 5 years or so, because the market has been so accepting of the lab-grown diamonds and moissanite, that many, if not most, US-based manufacturers now are supplying lab-grown diamonds as well as moissanite versus 10 years, 20 years ago when they only sold natural diamonds. So how does this affect the natural diamonds? Well, obviously, it affects it quite a bit because now, again, there is competition. So if there's more competition, if people are purchasing more lab-grown products, then obviously there's going to be a decrease in the natural diamond product line. So therefore, if one is being more accepted, it's taking more business away from the other. So it's gone from just the basic mom and pop shop, the retail store, to even a widely accepted supplier of the U.S. jewelry-based manufacturing chain. And last but not least, I've been going to trade shows for many, many, many years. For the longest time, when I personally go to trade shows, I have seen, obviously, jewelry from A to Z, from necklace to chains to gemstones to colored gemstones to diamonds to moissanite and obviously to natural diamonds. For a very, very long time, the lab grown space within a trade show was very minute and small. And let me tell you, it has grown so much in the last couple of years alone, especially in the last 3 years. I would say that the lab grown diamond as well as moissanite section in the trade shows have grown by tenfold. That being said, so that is a huge indicator of what the lab grown space is currently doing to the natural diamond space. The competition of the lab-grown lab diamonds as well as moissanite space is directly competing with its natural diamond counterpart. Many people in today's world are absolutely 100% okay with purchasing and wearing lab-grown jewelry versus the mindset of 10, 20, or even 30 years ago where it must only be the natural diamonds. All right, let's go over the second factor that is impacting the natural diamond industry in 2020. Obviously, everyone knows by now that we are currently going through a global pandemic with COVID-19. This has caused a few things. Number one, it has shut down the majority of the world for many months, and many countries as well as cities here in the US and states are now starting to open up. Other places in the world have opened up sooner, and other places in the world are currently shutting down. So it just depends on where you live in the world. We're all in this right now in this global pandemic. And what this has also caused, other than just a pandemic, is that it has caused a global recession. And what happens during a global recession? Obviously, business will be slower. Now, how does this affect the natural diamond industry in 2020? It affects it very, very much so, because obviously if a person cannot go into the mall, if a person cannot go into a store and see a natural diamond, if a person cannot go into the retail jewelry store, the mom and pop shop, to a big chain store, then how can they make that purchase? That's number one. Number two, with the global recession, many people are out of work. Many people are laid off or on furlough. Many people are currently not thinking about spending their savings or whatever they currently have on very high-end natural diamonds. They are thinking about putting food on the table. They are thinking about paying, for the lights, to turn on the lights. They are not concerned about purchasing a $50,000, $100,000 diamond as of this point. Obviously, that just makes sense, common sense, right? So how does 2020, the pandemic, as well as the global recession of 2020, affect the diamond industry, the natural diamond industry as a whole? It has definitely negatively affected the diamond industry. So now that leads to factor number 3, supply and demand. Due to past and present situations of lab-grown competition versus the natural diamond industry. Tie that with the current global pandemic as well as a global recession. Obviously, there's a huge supply and very low demand. So what do you think that's going to cause? What do you think that will create, and how would that stir up the overall industry as a whole? If I was to ask you, how do you think that's going to affect the diamond industry? I think most people would say that obviously is negatively affecting the diamond industry, the natural diamond industry. So let me go ahead and explain to you and give you a few stats as to how this is hurting some of the major and big players of the world that is currently in the natural diamond world. Okay, so Alrosa, which is the Russian miner, it's a Russian company that mines diamonds. It's one of the largest in the world. It's next to that of it's a direct competition, in other words, of De Beers. and I'm pretty sure most people know who De Beers are. So Alrosa, which is the Russian miner, their diamond sales have plummeted 85% to only $40.1 million in May, as the miner allowed customers to defer purchases. Okay, so in May, basically the CEO of Alrosa said that our long-term clients, like earlier in April, were granted an opportunity to postpone purchases under long-term agreements to a later period of the year. So basically what they're allowing their current customers, so remember, these guys are miners, so their customers are big manufacturers that polish diamonds before it goes to the retail market. They're allowing these guys to defer payment and even to defer purchases, because there's a commitment that a manufacturer has to make to its miners to purchase X amount of quantities or volume of natural rough diamonds per quarter, per month, in order to be a member of that group. So if they are allowing them to defer the purchase or even the payments, then that means obviously they understand the massive situation that everyone is currently in. That said, De Beers has also reduced its full-year production guidance by 7 million carats. Can you believe how many carats that is? A 7 million carats of reduction, putting the miner on course for its lowest output since 2009, which is 11 years ago, which is the last recession that we were in. De Beers also expects to produce between 25 million and 27 million carats in 2020, compared to that of 32 to 34 million in its original projection. The revised forecast for 2020 was due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on mining activity and consumer traffic in key markets. Now here, let me give you another stat. Okay, so there's this big company. If you do not know who they are, I'll go ahead and give you examples of who they are, and you probably already know. So there's a big company. This is basically the main company. It's called Signet Jewelers. Okay, so this company basically owns brands such as Jared, Kay's, Zales. These are big retail chains all across the United States of America. So if you go to your local mall, local shopping center, if you run into a jewelry store, chances are 1 out of every 4 of these jewelry stores will be a Jared, a Zales, a Kay's, right? So Signet Jewelers is the main mother company that owns this entire company. Now, that said, it has had a net loss increased to $190 million in the first fiscal quarter, as the company closed all of its stores during the period because of COVID-19. All right. So if you don't know, the majority of the production of natural diamonds in the world are actually cut and polished in India. What does that mean? Well, a natural diamond, when it's mined from the earth, it's called a rough. It looks like a pebble, a rock, something that you will find that looks very similar to just a rock. So it doesn't come out looking like a diamond, what you see at the jewelry store, nicely polished, shiny, and sparkly. It has to be cut and polished in a manufacturing house, and most of these manufacturing houses are from India. Okay, so in April, India's leading diamond trade organizations have called on members to stop importing rough for at least a month, just to prevent an oversupply and ensure banks maintain the credit to the sector. So basically what they're saying is, please, all you miners, just stop sending them over here. We should stop importing because we have an oversupply at the moment. In other words, no one is buying anything at the moment. We have too much supply. There's not enough to sell. There's just too much to sell and no one's buying it. So we don't want to continue to cut and increase that supply. Now, U.S. polished imports, here's another stat for you. U.S. polished imports are down 66% in March. And U.S. polished diamond imports fell in March to their lowest level since December of 2002, as the coronavirus hit global trading. The month saw the 12 consecutive year-on-year decline, according to Rappaport, which is a very credible site that many jewelers come and seek news and information. Now, that being said, those are just a few stats that's going on right now in the diamond industry, and these are very big main players. As I had mentioned to you earlier, I gave you a few names: De Beers, which many people know, Alrosa, as well as Signet Jewelers that owns Zales, K's, and Jared, right? I already gave you some stats over the manufacturing houses out in India and what they're doing. So what does this mean? What does this all mean? Like, why am I saying this to you? Well, if you're into jewelry, I hope that you're interested in how all of this works and how, and just to be informed. All right, so I'm going to give you my personal opinion on the future outlook of the natural diamond industry in terms of the near and short term versus the long term outlook. Personally speaking, based on the way I'm analyzing and seeing it, is that there's still going to be much more pain in the near future for the diamond industry. And the reason being is because we're still in a pandemic. We don't know when this is going to be behind us. I believe that eventually everything will pass and things will get better. But until then, in the near and short term, things will get worse and there will be a lot of pain because we're battling two things at the moment. Not only are we battling the pandemic, which is forcing all businesses to close and reopen and then closing and then reopening, and people do not know how to manage the situation at the moment. And the second reason is because obviously that's causing everyone to get into a global recession. What does that mean? People are unemployed. There are people out of work. There are people not making as much as they did before. So they don't have that extra income or extra money set aside just for some luxury goods, such as natural diamonds. They would, again, rather worry about their next meal, put food on the table, put a house, a roof over their head, and those type of things are necessities in life, right? So in terms of purchasing a very high-end natural diamond, I don't see that as that market coming back strong anytime in the near future. So there's going to be a lot of pain in the near future for the natural diamond industry. That being said, I also believe that the next year, 2 or 3, depending on how or when we can basically get over this current situation that we're currently in with the pandemic, I believe that there's going to be a lot of consolidations in the market. I believe that a lot of mom and pop shops may go bankrupt. I believe that many more well-known players in the market, if they are not well capitalized, then they will get bought out. They'll get consolidated by the bigger companies. So I believe that the bigger companies will probably outlast the majority of the smaller companies that do not have the capital to do so. I believe that the less strategic companies, the companies that over leverage, that over borrowed, that are in a lot of debt, will probably go and be bankrupt, and on top of that, not only get bankrupt but potentially get bought out. So in the near future, it sounds very somewhat depressing, but I'm just being real with my own personal opinion. I believe that's what's going to happen the next year, 2 or 3, until this is behind us. Now that said, what is the long-term outlook? I believe that the long-term outlook of the jewelry industry as a whole will always be around. But if we're specifically talking about this episode in terms of the diamond industry, the natural diamond industry, is that it will recover, but will it ever recover to the heydays of the natural diamond business of what it used to be? Well, I don't think so. Only because I don't think the lab business, in terms of the lab gemstones, moissanite, lab-grown diamonds, lab-grown sapphires, and all of that, the alternatives to the naturals and the natural alternative rather, will ever go away. So if it never goes away, then the competition will always be there. So will the diamond industry ever go back to the original heydays of when it used to be? I don't think so. At the same time, because of the current global recession and the pandemic has increased supply to a certain amount with so very little demand, that when eventually the economy gets better and when people start to have more disposable income to start purchasing again, there's going to be so much supply that they have no choice but to decrease the prices if they want to stay afloat. They will have no choice but to decrease their prices because it's basic economics. It's supply and demand. If there's a high supply, low demand, then prices will go down, right? And from what I see, there's just going to be so much supply with very little demand. Leaders of the diamond world, if they do not manipulate the supply, and if they truly allow the market to take its course, then I believe the long-term outlook of the prices of diamonds should go down. So that leads me to the next thing. So who does this help and who does this hurt? Well, I mean, obviously, it's going to hurt the businesses that are in the natural diamond world. Who will it hurt more? Well, the sad news is that for the people that have been in the natural diamond industry that has been holding inventory for the last 30, 40 years, those are the people who are probably going to be hurt the most because they purchased it at a very high price. Who does that hurt? Well, it's going to obviously hurt the jewelry businesses that are focused primarily only in the natural diamonds, especially for those, unfortunately, that's been in the business for the last 10, 20 years, 30 years. Because why? Because they purchase those diamonds at cost at a higher price than what I foresee the prices will be in the future. Now, who will it help? Well, it basically helps people like you, the consumer. It helps people that wants to buy a natural diamond that was not budget friendly. It helps the people that wants to buy a natural diamond that now they can afford because prices have dropped. It helps the people that have been waiting to buy a natural diamond, but they did not want to pull the trigger because the prices were too high, the supply was manipulated, or whatnot. It will help everyone else basically, other than the people that have been in the industry. Now that being said, do I foresee that natural diamonds prices will ever be as low as lab diamonds and moissanite? And the answer is no. And that's based on my personal opinion. I could be wrong. And the reason why I say that is because anything that's ever created by man can be mass produced. And when you can mass produce a lab grown diamond or a moissanite, then the more you make, within a certain time frame, you can lower that cost. And if you lower that cost, you can pass on that savings to the consumer. That said, with natural diamonds, there's a specific amount of labor that is required in order to mine the diamond, polish, and cut the diamond, and then send it to retail stores to be sold. And there's no guarantee they could ever find it. With all of that cost combined, as much as the prices will drop, I don't ever believe it will ever be as low as the prices of a lab grown or a moissanite. I've already gone over how lab diamonds and lab moissanite competes directly with the natural diamond industry. I've already gone over how the current pandemic, as well as the current global recession of 2020, is impacting the diamond industry as a whole. I've already gone over how all of that is going to affect the supply and demand of the natural diamond world, right? The more the supply goes up, the lower demand, the prices will go down. I've already gone over my personal opinion as well as the future outlook of the near and short term as well as the long term of the diamond industry world, as well as how the competition will create competitive prices for the end consumer. Many industries at the moment, including the auto industry, the airline industry, the travel industry, hospitality industry, as well as the natural diamond industry is currently affected at the moment because of the current global pandemic as well as a global recession. That said, it's affecting many industries across the globe. So that's pretty much what I want to show to you. That's the information here at Fire and Brilliance that we want to present to you. Let us know your thoughts below. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there was an avenue or an angle that I did not take a look at that you may foresee. How do you feel about it? Do you like what you hear? Do you not like what you hear? Are you for the fact that this is going to bring down the diamond industry just a bit to level the playing field for the prices to drop so that more people can afford it? Or are you against it? Are you against the fact that it's going to depreciate versus appreciate? Or what do you think? Are my views of what I see is wrong? Do you see it as it's going to just be a speed bump in the road and it's going to eventually recover? How do you see it? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know. Where are you in that position? How do you feel about it? Leave the comments below. Again, if you've been following our channel for a long time, hit the like button. Definitely helps the channel out a lot. It helps share the channel for other people that are looking for this type of information. And on top of that, it helps us, okay? So again, we are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, as well as Twitter. So come and support. Check out all of the latest jewelry content from Fire and Brilliance, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.